right, so today we're really diving deep. We're looking at one of the most talked about rivalries in tennis history, maybe even in all of sports.
Definitely a clash of titans.
McEnroe and Connors. You've given us a ton of material to work with, articles, interviews.
Oh, it's a fascinating story, really.
And I think what's really got me interested is this goes way beyond just, who won what match.
Oh, absolutely.
This is about personality.
About two forces colliding.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you've got McEnroe, the artist, the finesse player, all about touch and feel.
Right, like a surgeon out there.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you have Connors, this gritty, determined baseline warrior just grinding his opponents down.
A complete contrast in styles.
Like fire and ice, really.
And that's what makes it so compelling, right?
Without a doubt. This wasn't just a difference in how they played the game. It was a clash of personalities, a fundamental difference in how they viewed the world.
And you can't talk about McEnroe and Connors without talking about the animosity, right? Yeah.
Oh, the animosity was palpable. I mean, you could cut the tension with a knife when these two were on the court together.
Some people even say they hated each other.
Well, there are certainly stories. Tracy Austin, who played against both of them, she once said that their dislike for each other was no secret in the locker room.
No secret at all.
And if you need any further proof, just listen to what Connors himself said about McEnroe. He was quoted as saying, "Mac is the one player I can watch limping around the court and feel good about saying, fuck that guy."
He really said that?
Oh, he did.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking serious bad blood here.
That's putting it mildly.
So where did this all begin? When did this rivalry really ignite?
Most would point to their 1980 Wimbledon semifinal as a turning point.
Wimbledon, that's huge.
Oh, absolutely. The history, the prestige.
And this is early in McEnroe's career, right?
Relatively, yes. He was still an amateur at that point. And here he is facing off against Connors, who is already a seasoned pro.
David versus Goliath.
In a way, yes. And to make things even more intense, McEnroe wins the notch. Some say Connors was so furious he completely ignored McEnroe in the locker room afterward.
That must have stung.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Talk about adding fuel to the fire.
Oh, this was just the beginning.
But we've got this powder keg of a rivalry building. What happens next?
Well, things really come to a head 4 years later at the 1984 U.S. Open semifinals.
Okay, so now we're talking prime McEnroe, prime Connors.
The peak of their powers. And they clash in this epic 5-set battle that many consider the epitome of their rivalry.
5 sets, that's grueling.
Oh, it was a display of incredible tennis, athleticism, but also just raw tenacity and willpower. I mean, you could see the animosity fueling every point.
And you've got to think, with a rivalry like this, the pressure was immense. It wasn't just about winning the match. It was about proving a point.
Absolutely. It was about who was the better player, who was mentally tougher, who could handle the pressure cooker of that moment.
It's like a psychological thriller playing out on the court.
Right. I mean, the mental game must have been just as intense as the physical one.
So for listeners who haven't seen this match, do yourself a favor and go watch the highlights. You will not be disappointed.
It's a masterclass in competitive tennis and just a fascinating glimpse into the psyches of two of the greatest to ever play the game.
It's incredible to think that this rivalry, this clash of personalities, captivated audiences far beyond the tennis world.
Oh, absolutely. It became a cultural phenomenon, like a heavyweight boxing match. People who had never even picked up a tennis racket were glued to their screens, fascinated by the drama, the intensity, the sheer animosity of it all.
It's like they were playing chess with each other's careers, constantly trying to outmaneuver the other, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And the world was watching, on the edge of their seats.
And McEnroe, with his on-court antics, just added another layer to the spectacle, didn't he?
Oh, McEnroe was box office, that's for sure.
But when he played Connors, it was like the volume got turned up to 11, the outbursts, the arguments with umpires, it was all amplified.
Oh, it was electric.
You could power a small city with the energy those two generated on the court. But what about off the court? Did this rivalry ever simmer down? Did McEnroe and Connors ever bury the hatchet?
Well, time has a way of changing perspectives, even for the fiercest of competitors.
So did they ever become friends?
Let's just say their relationship evolved.
Evolved, huh? So are we talking like holiday card evolved?
Maybe not holiday cards, but
right.
Our sources suggest that later in life they at least acknowledged, each other's impact on the sport.
A little grudging respect, maybe?
Yeah, you could say that. Maybe less fire and more like, embers. Like two old warriors thinking about past battles.
Right. Because without those battles, would they have become who they were?
Exactly. Think about it. McEnroe's artistry versus Connors' pure grit. Did they need each other to reach that level? It's a good question.
I mean, did they ever talk about how the rivalry shaped them? Did we get that from any of this?
There's a McEnroe quote. Actually, let me see. Here. He talked about how playing Connors, it was like this switch would flip. A whole different intensity.
Oh, I bet.
Even said those matches were some of his most, memorable, rewarding even, despite everything.
They say iron sharpens iron, right?
100%. And it wasn't just them either. The whole sport, it changed because of them.
How so?
Well, you had these completely different styles, these big personalities. It brought in a bigger audience, more excitement.
It put tennis on the map, in a way, right?
For sure. They weren't just playing, they were putting on a show.
Speaking of a show, can we talk about McEnroe's, on-court meltdowns?
Oh, legendary.
But with Connors, it was different, right? Even more intense.
Way more. There's this story, the 81 U.S. Open final. McEnroe's in a shouting match with the umpire.
Shocker.
Right. And Connors, he walks right up to him and goes, "Let's play some damn tennis."
Oh, man.
The tension must have been unbelievable.
So we've got this rivalry, this insane intensity. But they also created something bigger, didn't they? Where does this rivalry rank? All time?
Oh, top tier, no question. Up there with Coke and Pepsi, Lakers, Celtics, you name it.
Those are some big ones.
It's because these rivalries, they become bigger than the sport. Everyone understands them.
It's wild, right? They're still part of the conversation all these years later.
That's the thing about these rivalries. They hit on something bigger, it's almost mythic.
Totally. Okay, but for tennis itself, was this rivalry good? Did it actually help the sport?
I think you could definitely argue that, yeah. I mean, more people watching, for sure. But it challenged everyone.
Because they had to up their game to keep up.
Right. McEnroe's style, Connors never giving up, it pushed the whole sport to a new level.
They weren't just playing the opponent across the net, they were playing each other, even when they weren't.
100%. And you can see it if you go back and watch those matches. The intensity is different.
Because everyone in tennis knew what was on the line when those two stepped on the court.
Exactly. It's like they brought this energy, this, electricity to tennis, and the fans felt it.
Oh, I bet. Sold out crowds, everyone wanting to see them go at it.
Like a prize fight, but with rackets.
And so we've covered a lot of ground here. Yeah. Two guys, total opposites, but both legends. What's the main takeaway here? What should our listeners really remember?
For me, it's that even with this crazy rivalry, there's still respect there, somewhere, deep down.
Yeah, they needed that rivalry. Made them who they were.
Right. They might not have liked it, but they needed it. It's funny how that works, It makes you think, would they be McEnroe and Connors without each other? Probably not.
That's a question, isn't it? So anyone listening, next time you're facing your own rival, remember these guys. It's not always a bad thing.
Exactly. Sometimes that's what pushes you to be your best.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive on, honestly, one of the most entertaining rivalries ever. Thanks for listening, everybody.